like I said before, we have this phenomenon that we have the class up here. This is just not my data. Should I do it here? I don't want to do that. I can't write with a mouse. Hate. Now something's coming to life. This is thinking stupidly.
Yay, green light.
No, it's not good enough. Blinking green just means.
No.
Alright. I'll just have to talk about it. So we have the class up here. Yeah, I know this is pretty pathetic. We have the objects over here. And okay, well, all right. So, and so this is a tool to visualize these things, so that you get kind of a feeling for what an object really is. An object is, as we all know, it is red and has round corners. That's the technical definition of an object. And when you right-click on it, you can see what it can do. And so this particular object can do two things. It can say hello and it can say goodbye. So when it says hello, then it gives an answer back. The answer is the one here in yellow, so that's the returned answer. Now, this is an example where an object did some work, and what it got me back is another object. And that is this object. And I can actually get it, and then it puts this object on the workbench. So now I have three objects on the workbench. Now let's see what this one can do. It can say hello and goodbye. This one can say hello and goodbye. And then this one says, ooh. This one can do a lot of stuff. Why can't this one do more? It's a string. It's a different type. So and the types are written up here. So over here you can see this one is a greeter, this one is another greeter, and this one is a string. So apparently a string can do a lot extra stuff. So let's try a few of the things that a string can do. It can do, for example, to uppercase. Must be here. And now when I asked it to do to uppercase, then it gave me the answer back. And the answer is yet another string. I can actually get it again if I want to, and then it saves it here. So now if I want to look what's inside here, as it turns out, when I ask a string to a string, then it tells me what's inside. Notice that the first string has not changed. So when I call to uppercase on it, it did not modify it in any way. Now on the other hand, I can make a rectangle, and that the interface is a little bit odd. I go to use library class, and then I type in the name of the library class here, Java AWT rectangle. And now it gives me all of the constructors, and I pick the one with the 4 integers. That's the one we've always been using. And now here's my rectangle. Now I have objects lined up here on 3 different classes, right? 2 greeters, 2 strings, and a rectangle. And so it's kind of like a police lineup. Man, have you ever seen one of these before? Could you identify them? And so here we have the rectangle, and it also has a fair number of methods. Not quite as many as the string, but still quite a few. So let's call get width, for example. And then it says this particular rectangle has the width of 20. Now, what's the use? There's one use of this tool is, like I said, to just visualize so that you get a feeling for that an object is a blob that has some numbers or some data inside. We can't really see what that is, but we can manipulate it anyway. We can kick it in one way or another, and then afterwards we can figure out how it changed. Is it still the same? So we can ask it questions, with the accessor method, or we can make it change with the mutator method. So that's to just visualize that. That's one tool. But the other way that it's good for is if you have a class that you're not really familiar with, and you just want to try some things out. So, for example, that mysterious replace method. So, over here I had some string, and let's say I want to find out what does replace do. And I can just call it. So here we have replace all, and let's say I want to replace all else with XXX. So I do that, and then I get a result back. And it's easy to do. You can just try it out. You don't have to write a whole program. It's always scary to write a whole program. You have to do public static void main and all of that. So you can do it very, very quickly. No animals are being harmed. And what you get is just a way of experimenting with an object. So if you ever ask yourself, what does this method do? If you say, I just can't understand what they're trying to say, you should really consider firing up BlueJ, make an object of that class, and then just try it out. It's easy. It's simpler than writing a whole new program. So for example, let's say we want to understand translate a little bit better. So one generally useful thing is the toString method usually gives a representation of the object. So over here, when I call toString, then it kind of tells me what goes on inside the object. So remember, the rectangle is right now at 5, 10, 20, 30. And now I'll call translate on it. And like someone said, what happens if I translate by minus a million? Or is it a million? Or whatever it is. It's, what'll happen? Will this blob now shoot all the way back and end up in Venus? So, no, it's still there. What happened? Well, let's find out. So we'll just ask it toString. What happened?
There's a maximum point where the box can go.
No. So the width and height are unchanged. They're still 20 and 30. But the x and y positions have been updated, and it has faithfully subtracted, that large number from it. Was it 100,000? It must have been 100,000. This doesn't look like a million. So it subtracted that number from both of them. That's all it did. So what translate does is it adds or subtracts numbers to the x and y, and it does change the object. So you can visualize with that. So the other thing that it's good for is to ask that eternal question: what is the difference between classes and objects? Now, I don't know why people ask that question, because classes and objects really have nothing in common. A class is a factory for objects. When I right-click on it, I can make another object, like that. An object is a thing that can do stuff for me. When I right-click on it, it can execute methods. But it's nevertheless something that students often ask. And the correct answer is, the classes are those tan things with square corners, and the objects are those round things that are red. And and that's actually the right intuition, because if you play with this tool for a little bit, and we'll do this a couple more times, and if you get into the habit of whenever you just want to experiment with an object, if you just whip out BlueJ and you just play with it in this way, without writing a line of code actually, then you get a pretty good feel for what objects are. So objects are these things that we don't quite know what goes on inside, but they can do stuff for us. What kind of stuff can they do for us? That depends on which class they belong. And so it puts this to us in a visual way. That's the whole idea of this part of BlueJ, and that's why I actually like it very much for this part of teaching, because it does such a nice job in giving you that intuition. All right, that's what I have for today, so we'll regroup on Thursday.